Hey gamers, this is Liz Davidson from Beyond Solitaire, and I'm back again with my very favorite video series of the year. This is the commentary video series on the People's Choice Top 200 list, put together by our main man, solo hero, Kevin Erskine. Jason Perez will be joining us shortly, but everybody's timing is a little off, so just excuse us. But I want to introduce our guests and then kind of introduce what we're up to today. So, Derrick, do you want to go first?
Hi, I am Derrick. I also go by Canje Studios. I have my own YouTube channel where I stream live solo playthrough games. So it's been fun. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And then Maggie.
Hello, I'm Maggie. I am one half of the YouTube channel ThinkerThemer, which it's a kind of board gaming review channel that I run with my wife, Amy. I'm the themer half, so I'm also the solo player of the house. So yeah, happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. And I'm so happy to have both of you on. So, with Kevin, so this is a moment for those of you who are watching this commentary video. If you haven't been checking the list, Kevin Erskine made a very big announcement, which is that he is no longer going to be steward of the People's Choice solo list, which is both tragic and completely understandable. I mean, we've made this man very tired over the years. And so I just want to start by saying, Kevin, we are really, really grateful to you for everything that you've given to this community and for such a cool tradition that we've all gotten to enjoy and be a part of for so many years. I'm pretty sure these lists started back as far as 2014. And it's just been such a great community tradition for all of this time. I hope somebody will pick up the mantle. But let's be real, nobody can be Kevin. But Maggie and Derrick, I'm so happy to have both of y'all on as solo experts to comment on this year's list.
Expert is a lot of pressure. I'm having a lot of what I call it, imposter syndrome right now. At the point I was like, could I even do this video? And then Amy's like, of course you can. And then started going through like the list of stuff from last year and going, oh yeah, it's like, oh yeah, I've played that. Oh yeah, I've played that. I was like, yeah, no, okay, we're gonna be fine. It's gonna be okay.
See, the biggest imposter on this list is me. So
what do you mean? You taught me Mage Knight. You still hold that.
Yeah, you taught me Mage Knight. That is true. Yeah, that's 100% of the guests in here have learned Mage Knight from you.
I really appreciate that, especially since Ricky is, of course, the OG Mage Knight teacher. But I do like to think my videos were helpful. But yes, okay, so this series is going to be divided into 3 videos. So for those of you who are watching, this is the first of a 3-parter. This video is going to cover numbers 101 to 200 on the list. So it's just going to be kind of a fun scattershot conversation about what little gems are in the bottom half of this list. Then we are going to release a video that covers 51 through 100. And then, of course, we'll release our final amazing commentary on games 1 through 50. So that is what we're up to. And this is the 101 to 200 part of the list. So let's see. Are there any trends that y'all would like to flag before I do?
Not for me.
Well,
not for me.
One thing that I was very disappointed to see, or saddened, I will say, is Stardew Valley having I love Stardew Valley, the video game. And when the board game came out, I sort of like, oh, we don't tend to co-op in our house, but I love to solo. And I loved soloing that game to the point where I even kind of created my own version of that. And it's actually like an unofficial version. It's kind of like my number one favorite solo to play. And it's sitting at like 800 and it dropped even further out of that list. It dropped like 400 spots. I'm like, no, it should be the other way. So that was a disappointing trend, personally.
Look, not everybody wants to do chores, Maggie. No,
it's like, give me a farm and give me, just like meeting villagers around town and giving hearts and getting,
Yeah, I'm seeing some stuff in this 101 to 200 where I'm like, what? Why is it so low? These are good games.
That's always so. I actually like this part of the list the best in a lot of ways because I feel like the most interesting trend movements are actually in this part of the list. So as we move through the videos, the top 10 have been fairly static for a long time. It's not as exciting to talk about, but I love looking at this bottom chunk of the list because I feel like it's extremely informative about you know, what's really going on beyond people's like canonical top games.
Yeah.
So I, being a war game fanatic, I always like complain about this part of the list and look for signs of hope.
Yeah.
So this was in my top 10. Thunderbolt Apache Leader has sadly dropped to 199. I've been trying to like breathe life into this thing for years. My own Night Witches game with David Thompson has a little flavor of Thunderbolt Apache Leader in it. I just think it's a wonderful game. It breaks my heart to see it drop year after year, but you also have to accept, right, reality. Like this is a reflection of what people are playing. So I'm looking at, okay, so what war and historical games are starting to appear? What are people playing? And so one thing I was very happy to see in here was Halls of Hegra, which is a very, very good World War II game. It's by Peter Schenke Olsen. And who is the publisher? Oh God. I am in San Diego with my body's on Eastern time, but it's also, I don't know what time it is.
I'm like in the opposite sort of camp of going, oh, I'm not into historical games, so seeing more of the kind of Euro strategy type games coming was like, yeah. But then I'm also mindful that I know that you really love the historical stuff for good reason, and so like, oh,
look, we can't all have perfect taste, Maggie. It's okay.
Well, you know, it is what it is.
Oh, that was
like,
well
so
done.
you're like looking at like sort of serious historical stuff, and I'm like, the Bloody Inn is 191. That should be high. That's in my top 10. It's like that is the.
There's a game for everyone on this list. There's several games for everybody on this. I want to make 2 more nerdy war game points, and then I do want to talk about your Euros. So one, I did a top war games, like war and historical games list with Brant from the Armchair Dragoons this year, like a month ago. And our number one, overwhelmingly, within the historical game community, we collectively overwhelmingly voted D-Day at Omaha Beach in as number 1 on that list. But it's sitting here on this list as 128. And I think that's really, really interesting because we tapped for a certain community and we got totally different results than what you're going to see in here. And so like John Company, which is actually going up this list, it should, it's a Ricky Royal solo mode. Like, yes, go Ricky. He's great. I'm not just biased because I'm working with him on some stuff for Oath. But we are, you know, we're still there. Like the historical community is still there. It just doesn't look quite like what it used to in earlier incarnations of the list. And traditional favorites within the wargaming community maybe aren't having the attention that I'd like to see them have, but there are historical games making this list. There's several David Thompson representatives. I'm really happy to see, again, Halls of Hegra come up because I thought that's definitely one of the better games I played this year. I thought it was great. I think John Company's solo is great. And there are a couple of other like fun historical things we'll see higher up the list that I'm not going to talk about right now.
How can I ask you, as a sort of historical game player, and like having played John Company multiplayer, what's the kind of default mode for a solo implementation in a historical game? Is it kind of like, because I think Oath initially had almost like that flowchart style, which I find so intimidating. I can barely like handle, you know, the simplest of automas. So like just even the thought of doing this, like there's no hope for me knowing what I was going to do, let alone after I facilitated, you know, any kind of flowchart or anything else.
So Ricky and I have not even told Cole what we're doing yet. Worley, designer of Oath, so I can't reveal too many secrets, but I can tell you we did not make a flow chart, dear God.
Okay. Good.
But it really depends on the game. So, you know, I'm co-designing a historical game with David Thompson right now, and it's just a bag builder. It's got hexes, it's got counters, but anybody could play it. Like I play tested it with somebody yesterday. I'm SD HisCon right now. Somebody said his 8-year-old could play it. So that, you know, it just depends. You know, it's the game. If the game is designed for solo, then it'll have its own rhythms, right? But if you're making a solo mode for a multiplayer game, like Ricky's solo modes are so interesting for something like, say, John Company, or PAX Premier, which we'll discuss later. You know, he creates modes that are very responsive to what the game is actually trying to do and tries to simulate how that feels. And I think that there's a reason, right, that those solo modes tend to do well over a long period of time, and it's because pretty much nobody other than me like wants to get a chart. And I think that that's real. And I think that there are, a lot of examples in this list that kind of prove that. So, Undaunted. I love the Undaunted game 2-player. That series is absolutely fantastic. But Undaunted Normandy, I'm pretty sure, is the one that made this list. It has dropped a lot this year. And I honestly think it's because people were really excited to see it Undaunted solo, and then they weren't actually excited to play it over the course of the year. Like, I myself gave it a middling review that was like, I mean, if you really want to play Undaunted by yourself, like, you could, but why?
Yeah.
And so actually, is that something that y'all have noticed too? Like, what kinds of solo modes do y'all see doing well, that kind of strike a chord with you?
Ooh, for me, I mean, it depends. My interests in board game theming are all over the place, but it has to not be something that is cumbersome. Like, I don't want to play a board game that I'm gonna say it one way is probably wrong, the automat, whatever you call it. I don't want to get into it if it's like, okay, well, that has to do this, then it does this, then you have to do that, then you have to do this, and then you have to turn this, but remember to flip this card, and then it's 5 minutes later, it's your turn, right? It's more flip a card, do what it says, or roll some dice, do what it says, or there is none of that, and you're playing against the game, which a couple titles on here actually do that. The simpler, the better for me.
I'm with you on that one. I just love when it's, well, Mage Knight style. Like, it's such a complex game, and really, when we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves, but like any sort of solo mechanism where you have either just one card and then that card doesn't give you a million things to do, it's just like it just affects one thing maybe, or ideally you're doing not, like, it's just, you just play the game, which then means that it tends to lend itself more to like a beat your own score type thing, and or like try and get within different brackets of a score, which I know that a lot of people don't like. Obviously, like, there's different camps of people kind of wanting one or the other. It doesn't do that it doesn't necessarily have that same feeling of you're competing against another opponent. And then, but those ones inevitably require a lot of facilitation, which I find that as soon as I start doing that, I completely forget what I was on about. And then it's just like starting from scratch. And I just can't. It's just my mind can't do it.
It just has to flow very easily. There are a lot of games out there that does it well, and those are the ones I usually gravitate towards. But another thing that grabs me is just kind of, it just has to be really well themed. So if the theme falls in your wheelhouse, themer. So if the theme falls in your wheelhouse, it just, that and the solo mode is tight, it just works.
So Maggie, what do you think about the Euros in this part of the list? What were you surprised to see? And what were you maybe a little disappointed to see? What seems to be a rising trend? Like, what's the...
Well, I'm excited for things like so things that haven't quite kind of cracked the list yet. So Distilled is, and like, sitting just like outside the 200s and 290, but it went up like 960 something in the rank. So it's something that in the last year sort of done a big jump, and it only just delivered recently. So I feel like it's something that the more people are playing it, then the more it's got a really nice, fairly simple solo mode. So it's a really satisfying experience. Woodcraft is another one that is it's sort of sitting outside in 275, but it's the first year in, so it's like it's quite high considering it wasn't at all. And that's probably one of my favorite recent really crunchy Euros, that super easy to like facilitate, like the solo it's just super smooth. I'm excited for Witchcraft as well, which is that kind of re-theming in a way, and kind of re-implementation of Resist. And I think the reason I'm excited for that is I didn't play Resist because I didn't connect with the theme as much, and I feel a lot of people are gonna have this thing of like, now with this Witchcraft and this sort of the witches theme is a lot more accessible and just more fun for someone like myself. Revive, I'm very curious because, again, first year. And it's at 178, and I just haven't played it yet, and everyone's like, you're gonna love this multiplayer. And I just had a quick sneak peek at the solo mode, and it looked very, very smooth. Like, it's not heavy facilitation, so I'm super excited, and I think that'll probably definitely be going up and up next year. That would be my prediction.
Excellent. Kanji, what kind of what would you say is your wheelhouse? I feel like you play a pretty wide variety of games.
Yeah.
So what are your kind of general impressions of games you're excited to see in this part of the list, and then maybe games you were disappointed, like you thought they should be higher?
There are a couple games on, well, a couple games on here, but it kind of makes sense. Like it's sitting at one was it 115, 113? Sorry, the number goes down because the top line is 1. So 113 is Hostage Negotiator. But Final Girl's out. So Final Girl's the re-implementation of Hostage Negotiator. So we'll see if that's higher up on the list of things. But that AJ created a really great game with Hostage Negotiator, especially with Career. Like Career is supposed to bring it all together and you play it. And that it's lower than this. I guess it's because Final Girl may have taken over that slot. But we'll see as we look up. In terms of other games that are out here that I'm looking at, there was one that almost made this list, and I was like, it should not be this low. But that's coming up next. The other stuff that's on here, like Keep the Heroes Out, I think that's a fun game but it's not for me, like solo based. I could see why it's lower. It wouldn't make that high cut. Isofarian Guard this low is kind of shocking to me, only because it has a very rich theme. It's not without its warts, but it's still I figured it would be higher than it is, which is kind of surprising.
Paperback Adventures, which is sitting at like 172. It did jump up quite a bit, so it's like it jumped up to like 560, I think, in the rank from last year. So it's again another one that's in the up and up. But it's kind of like the word version of Final Girl, in that you have like that core box.
Really?
And then,
I have to try
well,
it.
you know,
You do,
it's not
actually.
dice rolling, but it is, like I really, really love that system of, I'm not into, I don't like word games, but just this gives you so much stuff to do as you're creating the words, and you know what the way that you splay things, and like the powers that you get to use, and then you're still like, and the reason I say it's kind of like Final Girl, in that you have that core box, and then you're kind of bringing in the different heroes and the different villains essentially to create the different versions of the books of that. So I think that's another one that I was glad to see there, but I hope my guess is that it's gonna go up.
Keep going. Yeah, and I'm looking at this spreadsheet. It had a 560 rank jump.
Yeah.
That is big.
Yeah.
That's a grower. I'm really happy for it, actually. Honestly, I'm very surprised. So 51st State, I guess because it had a reprint, went up by 216 positions this year. Wow.
Expeditions, which is sitting very closely, like it's 166, and it's the first year in, like it wasn't in last year at all. So that's like the kind of sequel to Scythe.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's impressive.
Yeah. And what I hear with that one is that it and I haven't played it myself yet, but I hear that it feels like it's a solo game that they tried to do a multiplayer implementation of, but it actually should just really be a solo game. So I'm quite keen to experience that.
Yeah, some other big jumpers. I'm actually surprised that this one has jumped this big yet, because I really think that its best implementation is yet to come. But Sky Tier Horde,
I was looking at that too.
702 spots this year. Wow, that's such a huge jump. And so I basically said I liked the game, but I wanted to see all the card sets together. So I guess people are maybe anticipating, and they're playing what they do have and hoping for that big monolith box to come out. Because I don't think that one's reached its full potential yet.
Yeah, the other big surprising one is if you look at 115, you see that jump?
Oh yeah, Oranienburger Canal. 1,122 spots. What happened? I don't know anything about this game, actually.
I don't either.
This list made me go, wait a second. I love Uwe Rosenberg. And I think did we back that? It's one of those, like, this is a shameful moment of going, I think we backed it. It's somewhere in the house. I just have to go digging where it is. But I saw it here. I'm like, wait, why is this so high up? I remember that it's got that sort of central, the resources wheel that's very similar to Glass Road, which a lot of people love as well as a solo player. And I just love the way Uwe runs solos, because they're just so simple. So now it's sort of gone up in my list of I must seek this out and try it. Or do
So
people know that I don't?
so
Yeah.
so when it comes to, I know Maggie, you like a lot of Euros. So when it comes to Euros, I'm just kind of curious, like what is it? And I'll say from the beat your own score standpoint, what holds you outside, like that's part of that where you're
Yeah.
just saying, oh well it's a game, but it's more beat your own score,
Yeah.
what still keeps you coming back to it?
I think that by far that's a really, really like great question, and really like I'm fascinated by this because I ask myself that same question, like why do I keep wanting to go back? And it's usually games that allow you for multiple things that you can explore within the game. So multiple strategies that you can try and play out and see how that resolves. That's usually what it is. Like if it's a game that you kind of always have to do the same, few things, and then you're just sort of improving your score a little bit, I lose interest. But if it's games that have like often, point salad, as they call it, type games, where there's just different ways of, getting scores, that's usually it.
So we have our new person, Jason. I want to say hi to you first, and then I actually have something. I'm so glad you appeared for this because I was going to say something, and now you're here for me to say it. But first, everybody, Jason's here. Jason Perez.
Hey.
I blame Google Calendar. You were supposed to notify me. And I got a notification from some other thing that has nothing to do with this. Hi, Derrick. It's nice to see you.
Hey, how's it going?
My gaming sister out there, Maggie, how are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I was looking forward to this just for you, not for Liz.
Stop it.
My heart.
Yeah.
You know what? I like David better anyway.
Exactly.
It just became
Dump me for
like,
David, so I'm looking for a new
two
bestie.
teams.
Well, if you would meet with me at 4:00 in the morning to design games, and you was the
You can have you. Anyway,
So
let me not interrupt. We have very important business.
I'm super glad you're here, Jason, because I wanted to mention Mr. President came out on this list at 114.
Yes.
And Jason and I just recorded a podcast about this. It'll come out in a couple of weeks. But Mr. President is the biggest, table hoggiest. It's like one of the most ridiculous, but like in an awesome way, games I have ever seen. And I am so, I don't think I'm surprised to see it here, but I'm also, I don't know how to feel about it. I'm like amazed that this many people played it this much. Does that make sense? So on the historical games list, this made like number 8. Right. Mr. President is very much in favor in like the historical crowd. People have been waiting for it for years. And I am so curious about the future of it on this list, because will people play more of it because they'll have time to spend like 9 hours setting up a game?
Wait, how long does a game take usually on average, a gaming session of this game?
Don't ever plan to play it in one session.
20 hours.
That's 20 hours?
Yes, like a full 4 year. Like you could play shorter scenarios that take like 4 or 5. But this is a hog. Yes. I anticipate this will be pretty high. Because it is the definition of a connoisseur's game. It's for a small niche audience. It's never gonna have like that big thing. And you would theoretically think that as a history buff and as an American history buff, I would be into it. It's not for me, because ultimately the randomness issue kind of killed it for me, because you roll a lot of dice, and if you miss, then you miss, and you have one little resource and whatever it is. Anyway, but for the people that it is for, I mean, come on, it is history, it is giant charts, it is thrilling kind of, like we talked on the podcast about it being a TV show, like a West Wing. It's like, you feel like you've played an entire season of not an episode, a season, multiple seasons maybe, of like a really prestige political drama. And if you allow yourself to kind of sink into the mechanisms. So, I mean, I admire the heck out of it. Admire being the word.
What an investment of time and energy.
I purchased the game. I have not played it yet, but I do know it's a table beast. But
it's bigger than my table can handle.
Yeah, and I'm just wanting to see. I'm curious to see, like, once I'm able to get it to the table. But 20 hours,
it's glorious and a lot at the same time.
Is this a solo only, or is it a multiplayer that has a solo
It's solo, but you could split roles between people. So like Jason and I talked with my friend Paul Wright, who's also one of my co-designers working on a project now. But he played it by himself, but now he prefers to play it with a couple of friends. So he's the president, and then he's got a friend who's sex date, and then a friend who's handling like some internal stuff. And so you can actually like get your own cabinet of people to play this.
Right. It kind of breaks the genre of a multiplayer because when you think of a 1-to-4 player game, right, you think of like avatars, and this game doesn't have avatars. Like this game doesn't have a piece to move over here and over here. It is just a giant dashboard, and like you can theoretically fly a helicopter, but it's helpful to have 2 people.
And it's split into homeland and international affairs and all that other stuff. Is you get the full spectrum of the office, which is interesting. So I'm scared yet almost excited.
It is worth a play. I'm so glad I played it. I really am. Like I've never played anything like it. I want to have unique gaming experiences, and I've never played anything like it.
Best 20 hours of your life, would you say?
A worthily spent 20 hours.
Right.
Glad to hear it. I mean, it's a day, we all have a day somewhere.
President for a day, you can do it by playing this.
I think I got through the first. I think it took me about a week to get through the first day of it. I didn't play a full game because it's like a couple hours every night.
Okay.
So Jason, we've been kind of talking about different trends we saw. So I of course gave the war game report. Maggie talked about Maggie and Canje talked a bit about what they were seeing, like Euros and sleek solo modes as opposed to ones that like are more difficult and chart-tastic. What did you see this year?
In terms of the whole list, or in terms of the
just
200
like
to 101?
The 101 to 200.
It's a very stable list. I mean, I don't know if people know, like they might be new to this commentary. I used to run the commentary, and it was I think I started in 2017, and now we're at 2023, and we'll get to the top list. I mean, not to spoil too much, but like, anyone who's followed this list for 4 or 5 years knows that there's a stability at the top, and then the excitement is like, okay, what busted through? So I'm not going to spoil any of that, but just kind of up and down that there is a stability to the list. That once, like, the solo gamers are very loyal creatures, and once we have our games, we have our games. And when it comes to new games busting in, a lot of that isn't necessarily people changing their taste, it's new gamers coming in. So like the fact that there's anything new at all tells me that we're getting new gamers.
But then I also question for you, Jason, and well, everyone actually. I wonder then also how much of it is, as a solo gamer, I'm constantly looking for like what else is there, and like you always look at the top 10 lists, and so there's always a lot of you're sort of getting represented with a lot of those same titles, and so it makes sense that for new people coming into the hobby as well, they're getting represented with those titles that end up in the top. So it sort of has that that moment, just like stuff that's in the top 100 is often in the hotness, and the hot because it's just like, oh, it's got that cross reference effect. What do you think?
That's such a great point. Like, observing the BGG hotness would be a good parallel. So it's like, what's hot? It's either the brand new shiny blingy thing, or a hoary old like #1 brass Lancashire or Gloomhaven or whatever that kind of like reemerges because of new content or new people are paying attention to it, etc. So like, I think those are the 2 tent poles of the hobby. It's like, okay, you have your canon, and then you have like the new hotness that fizzles. And I think the most interesting part of this is to see what transitions, right? So like, which games like survive the hotness and are able to kind of glom onto the canon, so to speak.
Because we did see that, and we, like you said, that we've seen some of the, like in the last year's list, some of the things that kind of were hot at the time and kind of came in pretty quickly started to slide away. So it's just like almost just a reactive thing that then just subsided.
So speaking of, Derrick also brought up a great point a moment ago, which was that, there's also games that kind of get replaced by their newer incarnations.
Yes.
So Hostage Negotiators down here, we'll figure out where Final Girl went. But also, it's kind of interesting to see some of the old Hoplo games still on here. So, as we will also very likely discover for the list. Hoplomachus, Victorum and the Hoplomachus Remastered are now on the scene. But, Hoplomachus Lost Cities is still here on the list at 123, and it went up by 27 spots. But I wonder if it's because people are just playing Hoplo again.
I think that's what
whatever kind they have. It's really kind of interesting to see that. And I wonder how long that will persist, because at 123, like, you can feasibly see another year where it's still there, or it'll be totally eclipsed. So what are some kind of like old gods that seem to be falling that have kind of caught your attention? We can kind of wave to them as they
one of the ones that are on this list that's at 105 it's explore it. So there's four I have to look at my shelf. There's four versions of this, iterations of this. Domain of Mirrors and Noxus is the latest one, but I enjoy this series solo. Like, I think it's a lot of fun. It's a time investment, not a Mr. President time investment, but it's a time investment. But seeing it falling, or I know it says, well, it moved up 4 spots, but prior to that, it looked like it was a little bit lower 2 years ago, but it's still more. I'm surprised to see it this low, but it's not for everyone.
I have 2. So first of all is Root, which isn't exactly like an old god. I mean, it was a newer game, but I figured that game is that, like, speaking of a canon game at this point, right? I mean, that game reoccurs, but I guess it's just not feeding the solo crowd, which is, that's okay. It's a multiplayer game anyway. But I figured it would be a little bit longer up there because it's getting so much love and it's getting so much support. I'm surprised that kind of fell into this area. Also, as a person who's a veteran of this list, and followed it for years and years and years, Space Empires 4X lasted forever in the top 100, and it was always like 85, 86, 84, 85, and now it is way down. So I think it finally adhered to 173. So I guess finally people found their replacement or whatever, what have you.
Scratching in at just 200 list, I just have to flag it before it's gone, is that just hanging on by the skin of its teeth. It's Flashpoint Fire Rescue. It actually went up 14 spots this year.
I thought you were going to say Thunderbolt Apache Leader.
Oh, no, I already whined about that.
You already whined about that? Okay. No more. That's it. Next year, we're done.
No. Flashpoint it was just one of those really good co-op games that was really good solo. And I just, is it even in print anymore? I don't actually know. And so it's just one of those ones that if you're an old school solo gamer, you will probably still have like a little torch for it that you carry. But I really don't foresee that one having a big resurgence in the future. And Ghost Stories has come down really far. Like, Ghost Stories used to be like a preeminent solo game. And, it's kind of out of, I mean, there's still people who play it because of the hard factor, I think. But
yeah, I just played it at my local library for Halloween. And co-ops have come so far. And I can see, or maybe not come so far, but like they've just kind of like gone in a different way in terms of like the sleekness of the solo. I remember as I came in, Maggie and Derrick were talking about kind of a sleek solo and smooth. Ghost Story not smooth. It is thematic and it is exciting. It is not smooth. So I can see that being not people's favorite, but I still love it. I'll have it forever.
Aw. So here's a question I have for y'all. If you could rescue any game from this part of the list and make it be in the top 100, what would it be?
Any
game
plural,
on the
plural.
I'll let you cheat. We're solo gamers, we cheat, right?
We correct fate.
There you go.
This is what fate actually meant.
Like Lakitu in Mario Kart, where it's like you drive off and then Lakitu kind of puts you back on the road.
Yeah,
this is the Lakitu moment.
This didn't happen. We're good.
I'm gonna unroll that die. You can't unring the bell, but you absolutely.
For me, Icefaring Guard. I don't think it should be. I'm not saying it's in like top 50 territory, but I think top 100 is a good place for it. I also say I just saw it too. I will rescue my Explore It because it's such a good game. I love it so much. And there was one more, which was I'm surprised KDM is this low. It is the boss battler. Not everybody's a boss battler fan, but just kind of
everybody
surprised.
has $400.
Well, that too. So, but it's kind of that niche game, like Jason was talking about, where there are these niche games like Mr. President, where it's for a targeted audience. This audience is going to play it. KDM is that. It's for rich people, which I am not, who love boss battlers, which is a very niche group. But that niche group, everyone I've talked to who has KDM is like, I'm never letting that game go. So seeing it that low, I would probably say from a percentage standpoint of the amount of gamers as opposed to the amount of people in the niche. So I understand why it's that low, but I would try to rescue it a little. It's fun. It's terribly hard and horrible, but fun. Anyway, that's my 3.
I like it.
You got one, Maggie?
Yeah, I got 3, I think.
Oh,
yeah,
like, not alone.
I love, plural. Thank you for bringing that plural in. Paleo is one game that I really, really enjoy. It's not like strictly a solo. You are kind of doing two-handed, two-handed, but it's still like it's a co-op, so it's just an excellent experience. Palm Island, I love Palm Island. Like this concept of playing a whole resource kind of management game in your hand. Like I love it. And Coffee Roaster, which is it's close to the 100, but it's sort of, I think there's risk that it might slip further. And Coffee Roaster is just it's strange because it's relaxing, but at the same time, I always do terribly. So it's like, it's relaxing during, but it's just so painful at the end because I'm like, how am I so bad at this?
So I do love Coffee Roaster. I do think Warp's Edge is the superior bag builder.
Okay.
If it wasn't Maggie saying it, I'd probably be throwing my table right now. But Maggie is so adorable, I can't I can't say anything. But having said that, Coffee Roaster, oh boy.
You're not a fan. Not a fan.
Not a fan. Was that 3 for you?
Yeah.
Okay. 1, I understand why it's down here. Not everybody loves word games. Paperback Adventures is a dream. It is a gem. I love Paperback Adventures. It's on my shelf right now. I gave it pride of place. I have my little place over here where I got Dresden Files, I got Sanderson, I got Mistborn, Red Rising. Like that's my little games based on novels, because Liz and I are novel big book dorks. Paperback Adventures is so good. If it wasn't a word game, it would be like, whoa. But it's a word game, so it's limited.
Going up though. It looks like
we were talking about that earlier, and I was like, I haven't played it. I want to check it out because its rising rank number is incredible.
Yeah, it's jumped up 500, more than 500 spots since last year. So it's got good momentum, and I feel like after this video, even more momentum.
Yes,
I did 3 playthroughs in the one-stop co-op trip. That should tell you exactly what needs to know about how much I love that game. I don't do 3 plays of anything. So
I love it too. I think it's great. Any other ones, Jason? You gonna cheat too?
I'm not cheating. No, I'll leave the cheating to other people.
No.
All right. So I think that Halls of Hagra and John Company are okay on their own. So I really like those, but I wouldn't pick them. Go play Pavlov's House, people. It's great. If I can't rescue Thunderbolt Apache Leader, Pavlov's House is by David Thompson. So he's one of my closest friends. He's my co-designer for a game. So obviously I'm biased, but Pavlov's House is a game that really, really spurred me on the road to becoming a historical gamer because I enjoyed it so much. And I was so curious about what he'd done with it that I ended up interviewing him. So for me, Pavlov's House, I have an extra emotional attachment to it because it really changed the course of my videos and of my gaming habits. And so, for me, it's a big deal in that way. So I confess I'm deeply biased, but it's also, I think, just a really good game. It's interesting. It has interesting choices. It has a lot of war game hallmarks without being as frustrating as like a full-on traditional war game. And so I think that, it's a wonderful solo game in general. And if you're interested in historical gaming, I actually think it's a really nice place to start. That or Castle Itter, which is another one in the same series, the Valiant Fit series.
Nice.
So I want to kind of wrap up this part of the list, but does anybody else have any other quick comments before we go?
Oh, actually, one very last quick surprise.
Yes.
Dorf Romantic, the board game, which won the single. I was surprised didn't actually land higher just because of that momentum. So it's sitting at 136. And that's obviously just it's brand new, a brand new entry. But I would be surprised if it doesn't go higher. Yeah.
Nice.
Can I throw some games in the garbage?
Yes, sure. Well, and on a negative note, that's what we're about here.
I should have done this first. I'm sorry.
This is Sparta.
So I have to be really careful. Again, having done this many times, I never want to say like, okay, the gamers that love these games are, I love y'all, and y'all can have any taste you want. This is totally like adjacent cultural stuff, right? So Carnegie is a wonderful game, a wonderful Euro. The theme is garbage. It is hagiographical of this person who oppressed workers and blah, blah, blah. Robber baron. Do not hagiographize robber barons. Is that a word, Liz? It's probably not a word, but anyway.
We'll go with it.
Also,
language is fluid.
Australia. Oh, boy. Oh, God.
Yeah.
Maggie.
I've never played it. It's not really my type of game. But yeah, I don't feel good about the sort of context around it. Yeah.
I've done
even though it was try to make it okay and make it like it just still doesn't feel right.
Right. So I apologize, Liz. I apologize for ending on a downer.
No.
I was hoping that you would say things that I could like jump in and go, I'll recycle that, but no, like nothing that I jump in and go, I'll take that off your hands. Not yet. Yeah.
Right.
Let's discuss one more thing. So we'll end on a positive note, and then we'll move on to the next video. Which game do you want to back as a horse for a big riser next year? What's going to go up?
I am lukewarm about this game, but a lot of people love it, and it's premiered at 101. So I'm gonna say Earth. It's probably gonna continue to go up, probably a fair bit.
You said you haven't played it yet?
No, I have played it, and I'm like okay with it. Again, it's not because of a complex solo mode. It's just there's so many different goals in that game that I just cannot keep track of like the things that I'm like what.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
At the same time, though, it is not quite the type of game that rises here. Like I think that there's a lot of these type of games. Like people still have their Terraforming Mars, and it's kind of a similar-ish feeling. And so it's not quite a Euro crowd that goes there. It's very much a thematic crowd. It's very much have a solo adventure type thing. So I'm just gonna go with Mr. President. I think it's gonna be, it'll land, if not next year, the year after, in the top 50.
I don't have one.
Big. Oh, I like it. So I've already talked a lot about Halls of Hagar. I thought it was really good. I think that one could go up. I'm not sure if it's true. I think that Chip Theory might be working on some more stuff for Burn Cycle. So I think we'll have another Burn Cycle. Because I do believe that when games get like reinforced with new expansions, that they bump again.
Yeah, I don't have one from this list that I would push up. Yeah.
All right, excellent. Okay, so this will conclude the first part of the commentary. You should join us again for our brilliant thoughts on games 51 through 100, and then that'll of course be followed by 1 through 50. All of y'all, thank you so much for coming and being part of this commentary and just celebrating this list fun. Like I just love getting to talk to y'all, and I'm really glad you're here.
Thank you.
Thank you
for taking it over, Liz.
Yes.
All right, we'll be back soon. Happy gaming, everybody.